It's Thursday night, and you know what that means. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Luke Michael Howard, clinical hypnotist and owner of Hypnosis, here tonight with your Facebook Live, which is entitled Addiction and the Story of the Two Wolves. I'm going to share that with you a little bit later on here today, something that I learned from the many people I've been interviewing over the last couple of days for my upcoming project on addictions. And I kept hearing this thing over and over and over again with the people I've been interviewing after the last couple of days about addiction, and it was the story of the two wolves. And I researched this story, and I'm going to share it with you a little bit later on if you don't already know it. It's an old Native American story, and I'm going to show you how specifically it interfaces with addiction. So indeed, if you have just joined us, hello Deb, how are you? Give me a wave, give me a thumbs up, say hi in the comments below. But before I get into that, before I get into the story of the two wolves, it was interesting. I've been asked this a couple of times over the last couple of days. People on forums get a bit angry with me and on some of these Facebook groups, and they say things, what makes you qualified to help people with addiction? They're not actually shouting. Well, I don't know if they're shouting this in words, but you can presume that they're all caps. It looks like they're a crazy person or they're shouting. So just very quickly, I don't like to toot my own horn, but toot, toot. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it one time so you know what makes me qualified in dealing with addiction. And once I've done that on this, I'm just refer those idiots back to this video. I have been a hypnotist. I've been a change worker for damn near 23 years now. I've helped well over 15,000 people with many different kinds of issues. Specifically, I've probably helped well over 5,000 plus people with addictions. Everything from nicotine addiction to alcoholism, to being addicted to crack cocaine, to be addicted to heroin, to be addicted to crystal meth, to be addicted to prostitution, addicted to abusive relationships, addicted to attracting the same toxic partner into their life, addicted as in keep looking at their phone, their social media, addicted to food. I've been doing this for many years. And people say, well, what's the qualification that you have to help people with addiction? First of all, there is no qualification that you need to present people with tools that they run on their own brain to help them get some freedom over addiction. Number one. But I think oftentimes why they're asking that is are you interested in the qualifications that someone has over addiction, or are you more interested in how many actual people they've helped, how many real results do they have, and how many specific techniques can they present you with that when you apply those techniques give you freedom over your addiction quickly like that? Hello Amanda, how are you? If you just joined us, give us a wave, give us a thumbs up. The story of the twin wolves is coming up a little bit later on. And as always, if you do have any questions, put them in the comments box just below. If you're live, I will answer them today live. And if you're watching on the replay on Facebook, YouTube, or in a podcast, I will interface and answer those, I should say, a little bit later on. I know, and I am often referred from psychiatrists, psychologists, and medical doctors, people with problems, people with addictions, people that they don't quite know how to help. In fact, a lot of other hypnotists and change workers will refer people to me. And when I looked at the type of person that they're referring to me, typically it's always addictions. It's stuff like alcoholism, cocaine addiction, heroin addiction, crystal meth addiction, opiates is another one, isn't it, that they refer to me. And these are very, very good hypnotists, by the way. Written books, run lots of very good courses. Very, very respectable, good hypnotists, good psychologists, good counsellors, good doctors. But they come to me because, for want of a better word, they're shit out of ideas on how to help people. They don't know how anymore. They've exhausted their means, other than giving people, here's some more counselling to deal with that, or here's another form of medication or another drug that's maybe equally as bad as a drug that you're on, but maybe won't kill you tomorrow, so we'll take you that to try and wean you off. But they're shit out of ideas. Because unfortunately, the way the psychological community is built is they don't give you solutions on how to overcome your issue in the moment. Yes, you can talk about your problem and have insight, but when you're jonesing at 3 a.m. and you're shaking and you would literally kill your newborn baby to get a fix, and yeah, I've heard that unfortunately more than one time in my life. This is no judgment, it's just what certain addictions can do to people. They're shit out of ideas on how to help people, so they send me the most difficult clients that they have, specifically with addiction. That's what makes me qualified to do it. A lot of people are in AA or NA, nothing against AA, whatever you use, if it's helping you overcome your addiction, have more freedom in your life, then God bless that technique and God bless you. Even though I'm an atheist, you know what I mean, you can take it how it's meant to be dished out to you there. Good job. Whatever works for you is whatever works for you. That's great. But I imagine it probably hasn't been working for you if you're watching this video right now. In fact, the raw statistics tell us that AA and NA have about a 92 to 93% foul rate. That means 92 to 93% of people, it's actually a little bit higher than that, I believe, have a failure rate, which means the person relapses. Not just once, but relapses and goes back to using as much drugs as they were before, if not more. Rehab centres, I was researching rehab centres recently, and the average rehab centre in North America for a 2-week stay is between $50,000 to $100,000 Canadian or US, depending on where you are. The failure rate, meaning people that relapse and will then use as much, if not more, of their drugs after that. People who have gone to rehab, expensive rehab, sometimes they've had to reach into their own pocket. The failure rate of rehab is over 70%. That means over 70% of the time, after spending 50 to 100 grand, people will not only relapse, but they will use as much, if not more, of the drug going forward. The people who put together AA and NA are not medical doctors, are not researchers on addiction. It's not how it's formed. A lot of it is based on releasing to the higher power. And I'm not going to get all philosophical with you or religious. If you believe in a higher power, God, Buddha, whatever, God bless you. If it makes you a good person, if it makes you happy in your life to have those beliefs, God bless you. I'm not here to challenge those beliefs if you choose to have them. But there's no science. There's no science. There's very little science when it comes down to the science of addiction. All I can tell you is through field research, being in the trenches with everything from digital addiction to porn addiction to sex addiction to nicotine addiction to sugar addiction to cocaine addiction to heroin addiction to crystal meth addiction to opiate addiction. I have seen these people when everyone else failed. And I've presented these people with tools and techniques that they've been able to use in the moment to give them relief when they administer it upon themselves from their addiction. So that's my fucking qualifications. Real world help. And how I've been doing this 22 years. So when someone's been in business 22 years, they're probably doing something right. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be in business. And this is pretty much the only job I've done for 22 years. So hopefully that answers some of those questions about what makes me so qualified. Another thing, one last thing before I get into the story, it's coming up, folks, of the Twin Wolves, is what are your registered? Were you registered? Are you registered to do this? Am I registered to do what? To give people techniques that they administer on themselves to give them freedom over their addiction. Am I registered to do that? There's no registry for that. There's no registry for that. I oftentimes have mentioned have psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors, other change workers who are registered where they are, but they can't help people. So they send them to me, and I help those people to help themselves. When I'm looking for help, I'm not necessarily looking for the person with the most amount of initials after their name. That if I did tell you the 47 at last count initials that I could use after my name for qualifications that I had, it means nothing. They're pieces of paper. When you're one-on-one with someone and you see they're at their wit's end and they're so close to giving in, so close to ending it all, and yet in that moment, there's an insight, there's a challenge, there's a change that happens when they embrace these techniques that I'm teaching them. They administer on themselves and everything changes. That's who I'd want working with me in my deepest, darkest hour of addiction. Someone who's been there, someone who's seen it all, and someone who has the skills to give you the skills to get yourself out. That's what makes me qualified. So, I promised you the story of the twin wolves. So over the last couple of days, I've conducted close to 100 interviews with people who are active users or who have recently relapsed into their drug. And I specialise in helping people overcome cocaine, nicotine, gambling addictions, and alcoholism. The structure of addiction is the same for anything, but those are the ones I really specialise in and have great results with working with people. But all these interviews, I'm interviewing people just so I can find out a little bit more about them, the language they use when it comes to addictions, what we call internal representations, the images, pictures, the beliefs, the values they have around addiction, to help me to be even better. Because as good as I am now, again, as I toot my own horn, toot, I want to become better. I want to become better at understanding it, but more importantly, become better at helping these people out there. I kept hearing this story of the twin wolves, of the two wolves that kept coming up over and over again. So after I finished my interviews yesterday, I went online, like, what's this story? I went on YouTube. What's this story of the two wolves? Why do these people that are suffering from addiction, why do they keep bringing it up? And I looked at the story, and the story, it's an old Native American story. And there's many different versions of it, but here it is when we just strip it down. There's an old Cherokee Native American that's teaching his grandson about life. And the Native American person says, it's kind of like there's a fight that's going on inside of you. He said to the young boy he was teaching. It's a terrible fight between two wolves. One is evil. It represents anger, envy, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, shame, resentment, lies, falsehood, pride, superiority and ego. He continued. The other one's good. The other wolf represents peace, love, joy, serenity, humanity, kindness, benevolence, understanding, patience, empathy, generosity, truth, faith, belief. And this same fight is going on inside of you. It's going on inside of every person. It's going inside of me. It's going on inside of you. It's going on inside of all those people I spoke to yesterday and today. The grandson thought about this for a minute and he asked his grandfather, well, which wolf is going to win? The white wolf, the good wolf, or the bad wolf, the black wolf? The old Cherokee Indian said to him, the one you feed. Think about that. Think about how that applies to your own life. Whether you're actively addicted to something or if you've got any other kind of challenge in your life. There's two wolves. There's a white wolf, good wolf. There's an evil wolf. There's a dark wolf. As it relates to specifically, hey Tammy, how are you? If you've just joined us, give us a wave, give us a thumbs up. The white wolf in addiction is, I'm going to be free. I'm going to be clean. I'm going to turn this around. I want to be a better father, better mother, better daughter, better son. Want to be a better employee, want to contribute to the world, want to give to the world, want to be the best that I can be, want a life of sobriety, of being clean, mentally, physically, if you believe in such a thing, connected with your God or higher power. These are all forms of the white wolf, good things that you want. How does it relate to addiction? The black wolf, stealing, lying, cheating, getting your next fix, that's all that matters to you. Hatred, anger, aggravation, annoyance, sadness, shame, guilt, hurting people, thinking about what you need in this moment versus what you need or contribute in your whole life, doing whatever it takes to get your fix, even if it means hurting someone, perhaps a little child that you have. And in that moment, What do you choose? In that moment of your addiction, when it hits you, day's been going fine, and you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're in a hot sweat, and you've got those two wolves. You've got that dark wolf that's like, use now. You need to use your cocaine. You need another drink. You need to smoke more cigarettes. You need more sugar. You need another shot. Doesn't matter about your family. You need to use right now. All that matters is you and your need right now in this moment. Versus the white wolf. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good mum. I want to give to my kids. I want to be alive. I want to have the best life that I can be. I want to do the right thing by me in the world. I want to contribute. I want to give. I want to help. I want to heal. I want to be connected to whomever, whenever. In any moment, not just in addiction, in life, those two wolves are present. They're there. Question is, what are you feeding? Are you feeding the one that's love and acceptance and generosity and living a life true to your beliefs, giving to the world, gratitude, faith, doing the right thing for you, whatever that is, even if it's difficult, having character, having passion? Or are you listening to a wolf that's like, no, you need to get that quick fix now, you need to eat too much right now, you need to use, you need to drink, you need to smoke, you need to do it right now, got to scratch that itch right now. Doesn't matter who you hurt, it's only you and me right now. You and me, you and that dark wolf right there right now. Don't think about the future, think about this moment right now. Don't worry about tomorrow, who you're hurting, be it yourself or anyone else. Right now you need this. In any moment, there's choice. Whether you're in addiction, whether you're doing addiction, or whatever the challenge is in your life. Are you listening to the white wolf? Are you living that life of the white wolf? Or are you over listening to the black wolf, the dark wolf? Now here's the thing. If you just listen to the good wolf, that would seem great, wouldn't it? If you just listen to all the passion, all the glory, all the good things, that would seem very positive, and it would be. But if you ignore the dark wolf, the black wolf, guess what? It gets bigger, it gets hungrier, it salivates more, its teeth get sharper, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger until you've got no choice. Flip the coin. If you just listen to the dark wolf, the black wolf, then you keep using, you stay in your addictive behaviours, your negativity, your shitty life, and you don't have that life of joy, happiness. It's a shitty life, but you're scratching that back, you're scratching that urge at the moment. But it's going to be a pretty dark and miserable life where you're living in the moment for your addictions, but maybe you're not going to be around a lot longer. So if you over listen to any one and only listen to one, you're doing yourself a great disservice. So what I've learned, it's a technique I called the two wolves, is you've got to listen to them both. You've got to listen to that white wolf that's planning your future, being a good person, a faith person, having faith in yourself. Higher power if you believe in that. Gratitude, love, acceptance, living in the moment, power of now. But you must listen to the dark wolf, because that dark wolf, it does give us some very, very powerful virtues in our life. Sometimes it's appropriate to be angry. Sometimes it's appropriate to be driven in this moment to get something done. Sometimes we've got to do things we don't want to do and struggle in order to get the greater good. We must listen to the dark wolf. We must listen to the black wolf. We must acknowledge it, because if we keep pushing the black wolf down, it's a bit like a jack in the box. There's only so far you can push it down before one day it jumps out again. Whoa! At 3 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep and you start using, however, you're going to choose to do that. Hey Randy, if you just joined us, give us a thumb, give us a wave up, say hi, a wave up, or just a wave. Got any comments, please put them in the comments box below. So if you completely ignore the dark wolf, the black wolf, this is bad, because it will come. It will need to be fed. And if you're not feeding the monster while it's small, it's going to take an arm or a leg or potentially your life. We must listen to the dark wolf, acknowledge it, appreciate it, much like a little child that's vying for your attention. If you keep ignoring that child, it's going to tug on your apron string stronger and stronger, get louder and louder. The wolf is going to, teeth is going to get sharper, the nails are going to get sharper, it's going to growl more aggressively. You might listen to it, acknowledge it. That doesn't mean act and use your drug of choice or that negativity, that bad pattern, that negative emotion. We must acknowledge, hey, I want to use in this moment. really want to use, tough day, or this is a time I typically use, or whatever. There is no reason. I just got used to it. We must acknowledge it, not push it down. Because if we push it, try and avoid it, it is going to come back, and it's going to take an arm, a leg, or your life. Acknowledge it. In this moment, I feel a bit shitty. This moment, I feel a bit lonely. This moment, I feel a bit angry. In this moment, I really crave using. Acknowledge it. Sit with the feeling. Don't try and change it. Sit with it. Feel it. Stop running. And the most amazing thing often happens just by sitting with it, in it, by doing no special techniques. It just knows you're acknowledging it. You're feeding it, but you're feeding it in a very positive way. And as soon as you felt it, you go back to the white wolf, the good wolf. You embrace your life. Joy, love, faith, belief, passion, excitement, love. But if you ignore either of them, you run the risk of not having balance in your life. And it's very important that you listen to them both. But if you over-listen to this one, the black wolf, you're fucked. If you over-listen to the positive wolf, you could be fucked. If you listen and you acknowledge them both, because they've both got a message for you, you can integrate them and bring them together to connect with yourself, then you've got a fucking chance at turning this shit around. You've got a fucking chance at grabbing your happiness, grabbing that brass ring, grabbing that love, that passion, that sobriety, that freedom. You've got a chance. But if they stay apart, you're listening to one, not listening to the other, you're in for a whole hell of pain, suffering and struggling. And I imagine if you're watching this video, you've probably already done that dance before. So that's the story of the twin wolves, how it relates to addiction, but also how it can relate to any other thing like anxiety or sadness or any other kind of negative emotion that you might have out there. So thank you for joining us tonight for the Facebook Live and the story of the twin wolves. Oh, Amanda's just asked a question. This is the first time I've heard that story. What a great story and such an amazing lesson. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was the first time I heard it yesterday, but a lot of these folks I was speaking to that were suffering from addiction just kept, it was there, and I just had to go and research it later. And although it's not specifically for addiction, it wasn't written for addiction, it's a Native American or Cherokee American native. Not sure if that's politically correct, but I mean it. It's coming from a place of the heart. That's where it came from, and I think it's interesting how a lot of people who are suffering, especially with addiction, have embraced that, and they talk about feeding it. So, you know, the one that's going to get stronger is the one that you're feeding all of the time. So make sure you acknowledge, you feed it the right food, you don't overfeed it. You know, you live for the now, but you also live for a future as well. You acknowledge, that's important. By acknowledging it, I don't mean you're caving in, you start to do your drugs and hurt yourself and other people. No, I don't mean that. But you listen to it, you acknowledge it. Yeah, I really want to use right now. Why do you want to use? Oh, I feel sad. I feel disconnected. Lack of love. Lack of peace in my life. Lack of serenity in my life. I'm very stressed. Listen to what those emotions are underneath. And sometimes the mere fact of being an observer and listening to it can quite often be enough to allow it to disperse. So thank you for joining us tonight. As always, if you know anyone else that's suffering from addiction, is looking for a way out, please do share this video with them. If there's any groups that you're on Facebook, please do share this video if you feel people would benefit from this video and learning some of these lessons. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Always believe.